Now, more on this. Let's go to Paul Bell, a political communications specialist, joining us from Tbilisi. Paul, welcome. Throughout this, as we see more pictures come in, even when there seems to be, I will say, seems to be undeniable evidence of things like civilian areas being targeted, Russia knows that all it has to say is it's been faked. That footage is actually the other side. It's not us. It's them doing this. And sadly, what they've come to realize is that approach of calling everything fake news works all too well, even in places, as we've seen, like the United States.
Well, that's true. I mean, this has always been a psychological war, certainly right until the actual invasion. And the platform for this has been established very soundly over the past 15 years. We should not be surprised that the onslaught of Russian disinformation throughout this period, and becoming more intense since 2014 and the invasion of and occupation of Crimea, that war has intensified dramatically. And yes, it has had its impact in establishing a very powerful narrative within Russia that it is Russia that is under attack. It is Russia that has to defend itself. Yeah, here we find ourselves now. The fact that it's losing the propaganda war elsewhere in the world is significant, but not overpowering in terms of maintaining the allegiance, if you like, of Russian public opinion. And as we understand that, while the power of sanctions has not yet come fully into effect, and we don't yet know how much that will affect Russian opinion, that body of opinion remains fairly concertedly in place. There are varying estimates of this, perhaps up to 60% or more of the Russian population feel that President Putin is defending his country, Russia, against Western aggression. And at the same time, too, I think this plays into, if you like, a well-established and long-held sense of grievance among many Russians, that their place in the world has not been acknowledged. Their role in World War II is not properly understood or accepted. There are many reasons that have been well established in the Russian mindset as to why.
Of course, right, absolutely. And of course, every country that we've seen in recent years, and by that I mean in the last several decades, sliding into autocracy, the first thing they do is get rid of the independent press. They put their cronies in place, they make everything state-run media, they push independence out. So now we see Russia clamping down on independent outlets. Of course, it's saying that that is retaliation for other countries blocking its state media. But really, this crackdown on independent media in Russia has been going on for a very long time.
Oh, yes, indeed. And it is deliberately designed to suppress any alternative narrative that would represent a threat to the credibility, legitimacy of the Russian political establishment around Putin. So, yeah, I mean, none of this is any surprise as such.
So when we see now the Russian government cutting off things like Facebook and Twitter, has been really a hotbed of new video coming out from the battlefield. It's been, in some places, up-to-the-minute information. So you mentioned that interesting statistic that it's been estimated possibly 60% of the Russian people believe the government's line. But now that this is a war situation, now that their country is in this direct conflict with Ukraine, is there any evidence that there's more of an appetite within the Russian public to try to seek other sources of information, to try to figure out if this is really true, what their government is telling them?
Oh, I think that appetite does exist. But of course, there are risks for those who want to feed that appetite. Severe risks. New penalties and sanctions are being introduced against anyone who is found to be trying to access that kind of information. They're switching these things off left, right, and center. Yeah, the appetite exists, but I think we have to bear in mind that most Russians still get their news from state-dominated television. And as I said, this narrative platform has become so powerfully established during Putin's time in office.
Yeah.
That it is very difficult to overcome.
Yeah, as we've seen time and time again, information becomes weaponized. Paul, such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.